Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. We're going to be tackling something pretty radical today. Holacracy. Have you heard of it?
I have. It's
It's a new way of running a company, a whole new system, like a new operating system for your business.
A new operating system. That's a good way to think about it. Yeah.
We're going straight to the source for this one. We're looking at the Holacracy Constitution 5.0.
Okay.
So we can really get into the nuts and bolts and not just throw around buzzwords like you see in a lot of articles. And this thing is fascinating. One of the things that really caught my eye that you can officially object to your boss's ideas. Like there's a process for that.
That's right.
There are rules. It's not anarchy.
It's not a free-for-all. It's very structured.
Yeah. So it's not just everybody doing whatever they want, but it is definitely a different way of thinking about work. Are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely.
So one of the most fundamental things about Holacracy is that it completely changes how we think about job titles. Forget job titles.
Yeah. Instead of titles, you have roles. And these roles are much more clearly defined.
So no more like vague job description. You're really clear on what you're supposed to do. I like that.
Exactly. Each role has a very specific purpose and accountabilities. You know exactly what you're responsible for.
Okay. So we've got these clearly defined roles. And then how is the whole company structured? What's the sort of overall framework?
Well, Holacracy uses this idea of circles. You can think of it like a living organism, where the company is made up of these interconnected cells, and each circle has a specific function and a high degree of autonomy.
So you have all these self-managing circles within the company. What happens when someone sees a problem or an opportunity to improve something? Do they just like sit around and wait for someone to tell them what to do?
Not at all. This is where the concept of tensions comes in.
Tensions.
Tensions, yeah. It's not about complaining. It's about recognizing a gap between what is and what could be.
Okay, so it's a way of identifying areas for improvement.
Right. It's about seeing potential and then having a process for actually addressing it.
But doesn't that constant focus on tensions create a kind of negative environment? Like, is everyone just walking around stressed out about all these things that aren't perfect?
That's a good question. It's a common concern, actually.
Yeah.
But Holacracy emphasizes personal responsibility. If you see a tension, you don't just sit on it. You're empowered to do something about it.
So it's actually empowering.
It is.
Because you don't have to wait for someone else to fix things.
Exactly.
You can take the initiative yourself. I like that.
Yeah. And there are very clear processes for how to process those tensions and actually make changes.
Okay, so you've got these self-managing circles, you've got these clearly defined roles, and you've got this process for identifying and addressing problems. But how do you actually get things done? What about day-to-day work and making decisions and all of that?
Well, Holacracy has these things called tactical meetings.
Tactical meetings.
Yes, and they're designed to be incredibly efficient. Think checklists, metrics, progress reports. They're really focused on action and results.
I've worked at places where meetings were like black holes of time. Like you go in and you never come out.
Yeah.
And nothing gets accomplished. It sounds like this is the opposite of that.
It is. It's very much about focusing on the things that actually matter and making progress.
But how do you make sure everyone actually gets a chance to speak and be heard in these meetings? It's all about efficiency and checklists and all of that.
Well, there's a very specific structure to tactical meetings. There's a process for building the agenda and ensuring everyone has a voice. So it's not a free-for-all, but it's also not a dictatorship.
Okay, that makes sense.
No.
So we have self-managing circles, defined roles, and a structured way to address problems and get things done. But what about decision-making? With no boss, does everyone just do whatever they want?
Not at all. That's a common misconception about Holacracy. It's all about distributed authority, but that doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. There are constraints built into the system, there are policies, and there are very clear boundaries around what each role is authorized to do.
So you have the freedom to act within your role, but there are safeguards to prevent chaos. Like if you need to spend money, you need authorization from the role that controls those resources.
Yes.
Or if you want to make a change that impacts another role's domain, you have to get their permission.
That's right. It's all about transparency and making sure everyone is on the same page.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Yeah.
But what happens when someone disagrees with a decision or they feel like a rule is actually hindering progress? Is there any way to challenge the system itself?
Absolutely. And that's what we'll get into next.
Okay, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break.
So that's where the governance process comes in.
Governance process.
Yeah. This is how you can actually change the rules of the game.
Okay.
It's like, imagine if you could officially object to a company policy
Right.
that you thought was holding everybody back.
Wow. You're not just following orders.
Right.
You actually have a voice in shaping how the organization works.
Exactly.
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But I imagine it could get pretty messy.
Yeah.
If anyone can just propose changes whenever they want.
Well, that's why there's a process.
Okay.
Holacracy is all about structure and process.
Right.
So there's a very specific way to go about making changes.
Okay.
First, you have to identify the tension,
Okay.
what's not working and what could be better. And then you propose a solution.
So you can't just complain.
Right.
You have to actually come up with a concrete way to address the problem.
Exactly.
But what happens if other people don't agree with your proposal?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Other people can raise objections,
Okay.
but it has to be more than just, I don't like it.
Yeah.
The objection has to demonstrate how the proposal would actually harm the organization or prevent a role from fulfilling its purpose.
So there have to be real, tangible reasons why the proposal might not work. Not just a matter of personal preference.
Right.
Okay.
And the facilitator plays a key role here,
Okay.
making sure the objections are valid and helping the group find solutions.
So it's really about finding the best way forward.
Yeah. It's about integrating everyone's perspectives.
This is fascinating. So we've got this system for distributed authority, clearly defined roles, and a way to address problems and make changes.
Right.
But how do people actually get into those roles in the first place? Is it like a traditional hiring process?
Not quite.
Okay.
Holacracy has a unique process called the integrative election process.
Integrative election process.
And it's just as fascinating as their decision-making process.
Okay. I'm all ears. How does that work?
So let's say a circle needs to fill a leadership role.
Okay.
The process starts with defining the role very clearly. Its purpose, responsibilities, all of that.
Okay.
And then each circle member secretly nominates the person they think would be the best fit.
So you're really thinking about who would be best for the role.
Right. It's not about nominating your buddy or anything like that.
I like that.
And it gets even better.
Okay.
After the nominations are in, each person has to explain why they nominated that person.
Oh, interesting.
Highlighting their strengths and why they think they'd be a good fit.
Okay.
And here's the really cool part.
Okay.
After hearing everyone's reasoning, people can actually change their nominations.
Wow. So it's a really dynamic process
It is.
where you're constantly learning and reevaluating.
Exactly.
It's not about digging your heels in and sticking with your first choice.
Right.
It's about finding the best possible outcome for the circle.
Exactly. The goal is to find the person who can truly add the most value to that role.
So it really helps to eliminate bias
Yeah.
and make sure you're making decisions based on merit.
Exactly.
This whole system is so well thought out,
It is.
but what happens when things go wrong? I mean,
Yeah.
even with the best intentions, sometimes things just don't go according to plan.
Yeah, that's true.
So is there a safety net built into Holacracy?
There is.
Okay. Tell me more.
So Holacracy actually has this thing called a process breakdown.
Process breakdown.
Yeah, it's like a safety valve.
Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when does that happen? When do you have a process breakdown?
Basically, when a circle isn't following the rules,
Okay.
or when the process itself is getting in the way of progress.
I see.
Like, let's say a decision is stuck in endless debate,
Yeah.
or a circle is consistently ignoring the governance process.
Okay. So it's like a signal that something's not working right.
Exactly.
But who gets to say, hey, we're having a process breakdown?
Anyone can actually raise the flag.
Really?
A circle member,
Okay.
the facilitator. Even someone outside the circle can ask the facilitator to look into it.
So there's a way to call a timeout if needed.
Right.
Okay. What happens then? Does everything just stop?
No. The goal is to get things back on track quickly.
Okay.
When a process breakdown is declared, the facilitator gains more authority
Okay.
to keep things moving and make sure the rules are being followed.
It's like having a referee step in
Right.
to make sure everyone's playing fair.
Right.
Okay. But what if it's more than just a minor disagreement? What if the whole circle's struggling?
Well, in that case, the facilitator of the super circle.
The super circle.
Remember, that's the circle that oversees the struggling circle.
Right.
They would get involved to help resolve the issues.
Okay.
They might even temporarily step in as facilitator
I see.
or assign additional support to help get the circle back on track.
So it's like having a built-in support system
It is.
to help circles navigate challenges
Exactly.
and stay aligned with the overall goals.
Right. It's about making sure the system is working as intended.
This is really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like Holacracy tries to anticipate potential problems and provide solutions.
Yeah, I think that's one of the strengths of the system.
Before they even become major roadblocks.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the basic building blocks of roles and circles
Right.
to the complexities of integrative decision-making. And this safety net of process breakdowns.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but we've given you the key takeaways.
Hopefully we sparked your curiosity.
Exactly. And if you want to learn more, there are tons of resources out there.
Books, articles, even online communities.
But we got to leave it there for today. So if this system sounds intriguing, go do some more digging.
Yeah. See what you think. Could this work for your organization? What are the potential benefits and challenges?
That's what we want you to think about.
Yeah. There's always more to explore.
Absolutely. See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.